A man baby thought he could get his mommy to stop me and my husband from buying a house, and we proved him wrong in the best way possible. When my husband Jake and I put an offer on the little blue house on Maple Street, we thought our biggest challenge would be the competitive market. We'd been looking for 8 months, losing bid after bid to cash offers and investors. This house was different, though. It had been on the market for 3 weeks with no offers, which seemed weird for the neighborhood. The price was fair, the inspection came back clean, and our loan was pre-approved. Everything should have been straightforward. That's when we met Brad. He showed up at our second walkthrough, just standing in the front yard when we arrived with our realtor. Mid-30s guy in workout clothes, acting like he belonged there. He approached us immediately with this weird intensity that made me uncomfortable. "You don't want to buy this house," he said, not even introducing himself. "Trust me, you'll regret it." Our realtor Lisa looked confused and asked who he was. Brad said he lived 2 houses down and was just looking out for the neighborhood. He kept insisting there were problems with the house that we didn't know about, but when we asked for specifics, he got vague and started stammering. "Just trust me," he kept saying. "Find somewhere else, please." We figured he was just one of those neighborhood busybodies and ignored him, but over the next week, Brad kept showing up wherever we went. At the bank when we finalized our mortgage paperwork, at the home improvement store when we were picking out paint colors, at the coffee shop near the house when we were meeting with contractors. Each time, he'd approach us with the same desperate energy, begging us to reconsider. He started offering increasingly weird alternatives, like he'd help us find a better house in a different neighborhood, or he knew someone selling a place across town for way under market value. Jake was getting annoyed, but I was more puzzled by Brad's behavior. He seemed genuinely panicked about us buying this specific house, not just protective of property values. There was something desperate and personal in his voice that didn't match his explanation about being a concerned neighbor. Then Brad escalated things. He started calling our realtor Lisa multiple times a day, demanding she show us other properties. He called our mortgage broker, claiming there were issues with our application that needed immediate attention. He even showed up at Jake's work somehow, cornering him in the parking lot to make another frantic plea. That's when Brad mentioned getting his mommy involved. He said if we didn't withdraw our offer voluntarily, his mother had connections that could make serious problems for us. Lisa laughed it off and said she'd dealt with crazy neighbors before, but something about the way Brad said it made my stomach drop with anxiety. 2 days later, we got a call from the city building department. Someone had filed a complaint about unpermitted work in the house we were buying. The inspection would delay our closing by at least 2 weeks while they conducted a full investigation. Then our homeowner's insurance company called saying they'd received an anonymous tip about previous flood damage in the basement. Another inspection, another delay, another potential deal killer. Our mortgage rate lock was about to expire, and we were starting to panic about losing our dream home. Brad kept appearing around the house during these various inspections, watching from across the street with this satisfied expression, like he was winning some kind of game. That's when I decided to do some research on Brad myself. I found his full name from a neighborhood Facebook group and started digging into public records. Property tax records, voter registration, employment history, anything I could find. What I discovered explained everything about his desperate behavior and his mysterious mommy connections. The records showed that Brad wasn't just some concerned neighbor. He had been the previous owner of our house, and he'd lost it in foreclosure just 6 months ago. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part was who had bought it from the bank and put it back on the market. His mother worked for the city planning department, and she'd been using her position to sabotage our purchase because she wanted to buy the house back for her son at a lower price. And that's when I realized exactly how we were going to prove them both wrong. I pulled Jake aside as soon as we get home, still buzzing with the revelation about Brad and his mother. The pieces finally fit together. Brad's desperation, the sudden inspection issues, the mommy comment that had seemed so strange at the time. "We need to document everything," I tell Jake, already pulling out my laptop. And I mean everything. Jake looks over my shoulder as I create a detailed timeline of Brad's harassment, from that first confrontation in the yard to his appearance at Jake's workplace. I add screenshots of the property records showing Brad's foreclosure and his mother's subsequent purchase. "This is straight-up corruption," Jake says, pacing our apartment. "She's using her position at the planning department to manipulate property values for personal gain. And that's illegal," I add, already searching for attorneys who specialize in real estate and ethics violations. Very illegal. By morning, we've secured a meeting with Patricia Winters, a sharp-eyed attorney who specializes in municipal law. She reviews our evidence with clinical precision, occasionally making notes on a yellow legal pad. "This is textbook conflict of interest," she confirms, "and potentially criminal if we can prove intent. What we need is something concrete showing Brad's mother is deliberately using her position to interfere with your purchase." "Like a recording?" I ask. Patricia's eyes narrow slightly. "If obtained legally, that would be extremely helpful." We leave her office with a game plan. First, Jake calls our mortgage broker, explaining the situation without naming names. To our relief, he agrees to extend our rate lock for 2 weeks at no additional cost, given the unusual circumstances. Meanwhile, I schedule a meeting with the supervisor of the city planning department, a stern-looking woman named Eleanor Grayson. I present myself as a concerned citizen with questions about the permit process, careful not to mention Brad or his mother. I've heard some concerning things about potential conflicts of interest in the department, I say casually, watching her reaction. Eleanor's expression shifts subtly. We take ethics very seriously here. If you have specific concerns, I'd like to hear them. I keep it vague, but her body language tells me everything I need to know. There's history there, tension when I mention procedures being circumvented. I make a mental note. Eleanor Grayson might be a potential ally. That afternoon, Lisa meets us for coffee, her expression darkening as we lay out what we've discovered. I knew something was off about this listing, she admits. The seller was pushing for a quick close. Then suddenly, these inspection issues appeared out of nowhere. I should have connected the dots. You couldn't have known, I assure her. But now we need your help. Lisa doesn't hesitate. What do you need me to do? The next phase of our plan requires careful timing. Jake and I drive to the blue house on Maple Street for what appears to be another inspection follow-up. As expected, Brad is watching from his rental 2 houses down, smartphone in hand, as he presumably texts his mother updates about our activities. I casually walk toward his house, pretending to take a call while Jake engages with the inspector. Brad retreats inside, but I've already planted the seed. 20 minutes later, as we're leaving, a silver Lexus pulls into the driveway of Brad's rental. That's her, I whisper to Jake, recognizing Brad's mother from her employee photo on the city website. Right on schedule. We wait in our car down the street, and sure enough, 15 minutes later, Brad and his mother emerge, heading toward the blue house. They stand in the front yard, gesturing at the property, completely unaware that I've circled back on foot with my phone recording in my jacket pocket. Just need to delay them another week, I hear Brad's mother saying as I approach, pretending to be checking the mailbox. The bank already approved my financing. Once their rate lock expires, they'll back out. But what if they don't? Brad whines. Trust me, nobody's going to outbid us once I file the report about structural issues, she says confidently. I've already got the inspector on board. He owes me after I expedited his cousin's permits last year. I've heard enough. I walk away casually, heart pounding. The entire conversation captured clearly on my phone. When I play it back for Jake in our car, his eyes widen. This is it, he says. This is exactly what Patricia said we needed. We forward the recording to our attorney, who calls back within the hour. This is compelling evidence of ethics violations and possibly criminal misconduct, she confirms. I'm drafting a formal complaint to the city ethics board right now. While Patricia handles the official channels, I make an anonymous call to the local newspaper, giving just enough details to pique their interest in potential corruption at the planning department. The reporter asks pointed questions, clearly sensing a story. That evening, Jake and I decide it's time for a direct approach. We drive to Brad's rental and knock on the door. He answers, his confident smirk faltering when he sees us standing there. What do you want? He demands, trying to sound tough. We know everything, Brad, Jake says calmly. About the foreclosure 6 months ago. About your mother buying the house through the bank. About the fake inspection issues. Brad's face drains of color. You can't prove anything. Actually, we can, I reply, holding up my phone. We have your mother on record admitting to the whole scheme. The ethics board will have their copy tomorrow morning. You're bluffing, he stammers, but his voice cracks. We're not here to threaten you, Jake continues. We're here to tell you it's over. The house is going to be ours. And if you or your mother interfere again, we won't hesitate to make this very public. As we turn to leave, I pause. By the way, Brad, real adults solve their problems without running to mommy. Something to think about. We drive away, leaving Brad standing shell-shocked in his doorway. Back home, we submit our formal complaint against Brad's mother to the city ethics board, complete with the recording and documentation of all the interference we've experienced. The next morning, I receive a call from Eleanor Grayson. I received your complaint, she says, her voice carefully neutral. I want you to know that I've placed the employee in question on administrative leave pending investigation. Thank you, I reply, sensing an opening. This must be difficult for the department. There's a pause before Eleanor speaks again, her voice lower. Between us, this isn't the first time concerns have been raised about this particular employee. Your evidence may have finally given us what we needed. By the end of the week, the city building department calls to inform us that our inspection has been expedited and cleared. Our mortgage broker confirms that our closing can proceed as scheduled. And the local newspaper runs a small but pointed story about an unnamed planning department employee under investigation for ethics violations. Brad's mother's plan to manipulate the system has backfired spectacularly. The house that she tried so desperately to keep from us will be ours after all. And as for Brad, he's been noticeably absent from his rental. According to Lisa, who heard it from another realtor, he's suddenly looking for apartments on the other side of town. Apparently, living 2 houses down from the people who exposed your scheme isn't very appealing. The blue house on Maple Street is waiting for us, and this time, nothing is going to stand in our way. I'm still riding the high of our victory when the first signs of retaliation appear. It's been 3 days since Brad's mother was placed on administrative leave, and I'm reviewing paint samples for the living room when my phone rings. "Mrs. Winters," I say, recognizing our attorney's number. "They're pushing back," Patricia says without preamble. Brad's mother has filed for 3 additional inspections on the property through a colleague in the department: foundation, electrical, and plumbing. My stomach drops. Can she do that? Technically, yes. The requests look legitimate on paper, but it's clearly harassment. I hang up and immediately call Jake, who's at work. He answers on the second ring, his voice hushed. "We have a problem here too," he says, before I can even tell him about the inspections. "My boss just got a call from the business licensing department. Apparently, there are concerns about our permit compliance." Brad's mother? Has to be. She's going after my job now. I pace our apartment, anger building with each step. This is getting serious, Jake. She's escalating. That night, our phone rings at 2:17 a.m. I fumble for it in the dark, heart racing. "Hello?" I manage, voice thick with sleep. "Back off now," a muffled voice hisses, "or things will get much worse." The line goes dead. Jake sits up beside me. "Who was that?" "Anonymous threat," I say, already forwarding the call log to Patricia. They're getting desperate. The next morning brings more problems. Lisa calls in a panic. "Someone smashed the lockbox at the house," she says, "and there's spray paint on the front door." We rush over to find "Not for Sale" sprayed in red across the beautiful blue door. The security camera we installed after our meeting with Patricia captured everything. Brad, hoodie pulled up, vandalizing the property at 3:30 a.m. "This is criminal," Jake says, jaw tight as we watch the footage. Patricia arranges a meeting with the district attorney's office that afternoon. Assistant DA Morgan Reeves reviews our evidence with growing concern. "This goes beyond harassment," she says, tapping her pen against the desk. "We're looking at criminal mischief, attempted interference with a real estate transaction, abuse of public office, and potentially criminal conspiracy." She pauses, studying the security footage again. "I'll file for a warrant today. In the meantime, document everything." We leave feeling cautiously optimistic, but Brad isn't done. That evening, our apartment building's security calls. Someone matching Brad's description attempted to enter our unit while we were out. The security guard confronted him, and Brad claimed he was delivering documents, but fled when asked for ID. "He's trying to get our evidence," I tell Jake as we check that nothing's missing. He's panicking. The local news catches wind of the story the next day. A reporter named Alicia Chen from the Chronicle calls me. "I'm investigating potential corruption in the city planning department," she explains. "Multiple sources have mentioned an employee using their position to manipulate property transactions. Would you be willing to discuss your experience?" With Patricia's approval, I provide a carefully worded statement. By evening, the Chronicle's website features the headline, "Planning Department Corruption Investigation Expands." The article doesn't name Brad or his mother, but it mentions multiple properties potentially manipulated for personal gain and quotes anonymous sources within city government about systematic abuse of position. "Multiple properties?" Jake says, reading over my shoulder. "You think there are others?" I'm already searching public records, cross-referencing properties that changed hands under unusual circumstances with inspection issues. By midnight, we've identified 3 other houses that followed the same pattern: foreclosures that Brad's mother purchased through various shell companies after creating permit problems for potential buyers. "This is a pattern," I tell Patricia the next morning. "She's been doing this for years." Patricia sounds grimly satisfied. "This strengthens our case considerably. The DA will want this information immediately." That afternoon, I receive an unexpected call from Councilwoman Diana Ortiz. "I've been following your situation with interest," she says. "The planning department falls under my committee's oversight, and I'm deeply concerned by what I'm hearing." She pauses. "I'd like to help expedite your closing. This kind of corruption has no place in our city government." With Councilwoman Ortiz's intervention, the additional inspections are canceled, and our closing is put back on track. Brad's mother is formally suspended without pay pending the investigation's outcome. Brad makes one last desperate move. While we're meeting with our mortgage broker to finalize paperwork, the security system at our apartment sends an alert to my phone. The camera shows Brad attempting to pick our lock, a backpack slung over his shoulder. I call 911 immediately, and officers arrive while he's still there. They find lockpicking tools, gloves, and a list of what he was looking for: our evidence files, recordings, and computer. Breaking and entering, attempted burglary. The arresting officer tells us when we rush home he's not getting out on bail anytime soon. That evening, Alicia Chen's follow-up story runs on the local news. She stands in front of the city planning department building, microphone in hand. Sources confirm that a senior employee has been suspended amid allegations of using her position to manipulate property transactions for personal gain, she reports. The The district attorney's office has launched a criminal investigation, and at least 4 properties have been identified in what authorities are calling a systematic scheme to defraud legitimate buyers. The camera cuts to a brief interview with Eleanor Grayson, who looks both stern and vindicated. The planning department is committed to transparency and ethical conduct, she says. We are cooperating fully with investigators and will take appropriate action against any employee who has violated the public trust. Jake puts his arm around me as we watch. We did it, he says quietly. They can't stop us now. The next morning, my phone rings. It's Lisa. You're not going to believe this, she says, excitement bubbling in her voice. The seller just agreed to a $10,000 price reduction as a gesture of goodwill given the delays and trouble. I laugh, feeling the tension of the past weeks finally start to dissolve. Looks like we're getting our dream house at a discount. And, Lisa adds, the city inspector called. He's personally coming tomorrow to clear all remaining items. Said he wants to make sure there are no more misunderstandings. As I hang up, I notice an email from Patricia with the subject line, settlement offer. Brad's mother is offering to drop all complaints and pay for the vandalism repairs if we'll withdraw our ethics complaint. I forward it to Jake with a single word, no. His reply comes seconds later, absolutely not. The blue house on Maple Street is waiting for us. And this time, justice is on our side. The settlement offer email from Brad's mother sits in my inbox like a ticking bomb. After everything they've put us through, she actually thinks we can be bought off. I'm still staring at my screen when my phone buzzes with a call from Patricia. I assume you've seen the offer, she says without preamble. $20,000 and repairs to drop the ethics complaint? I scoff. She's desperate. Extremely. Patricia agrees. Which means this is the perfect time to set our trap. I've been speaking with the ethics investigators. They want to build an airtight case, and they need more than just the recording we already have. What are you suggesting? A sting operation. The investigators want to get Brad on record admitting to the full scope of his mother's activities. Jake walks in from the kitchen, coffee mug in hand. I put Patricia on speaker. We'd need to meet with Brad somewhere public but private enough for a conversation, she continues. Wear a wire. Get him talking about his mother's role in all of this. Jake and I exchange glances. Is that safe? He asks. You'd have plainclothes officers nearby, Patricia assures us. The ethics committee is coordinating with the DA's office on this. They're taking it very seriously. After hanging up, Jake paces our living room. I don't like putting you in Brad's path again. I don't like it either, I admit, but if we want to make sure this never happens to anyone else, we need to do this. The sting is set for the following afternoon at a coffee shop near the Blue House. I arrive early, the tiny microphone taped to my chest, making me hyper-aware of every movement. 2 plainclothes officers sit at different tables, pretending to work on laptops. Brad walks in 15 minutes late, looking haggard. The confident swagger is gone, replaced by darting eyes and nervous energy. Thanks for meeting me, I say, keeping my voice level. Whatever. He slumps into the chair across from me. You got my mom's offer? I did. But I'm curious why you think money solves this problem. Brad leans forward, lowering his voice. Look, I just want my house back. Mom's trying to fix this for me. Can't you understand that? By abusing her position? Creating fake inspection issues? It wasn't supposed to go this far, he mutters, running a hand through his unwashed hair. She's done this before, you know. Small stuff at first. Expediting permits for friends. Delaying them for people she didn't like. My heart races. He's actually admitting it. Then when I lost the house, Brad continues, she said she could get it back for me, said she'd done it before with other properties. Create some issues, scare off buyers, buy it back at a discount. How many properties are we talking about? Brad shrugs. 4, maybe 5? There was that place on Oakwood last year, and the Victorian on Pine Street. Mom has a whole system. She flags the inspection, calls in favors from her department buddies, then buys through shell companies, so nobody connects the dots. I can practically feel the ethics investigators celebrating through the wire. And you were okay with this? It's not like I had options, Brad snaps. The foreclosure destroyed my credit. Mom said she'd put the house in my name once things cooled down. It was my house first, you know. That you lost, legally. His face darkens. You don't understand. That house is all I have left. So you vandalized it? Called in fake complaints? Threatened us? I was desperate. Brad's voice rises, drawing glances from nearby tables. He lowers it again. Mom said it would work. She's never been caught before. I let his words hang in the air for a moment. Well, she's been caught now. The color drains from Brad's face as realization dawns. His eyes dart to my jacket. You're recording this. I say nothing. You bitch, he hisses, standing up so abruptly his chair topples backward. The plainclothes officers immediately move closer. You set me up. You set yourself up, Brad. I reply calmly. You and your mother decided rules don't apply to you. He storms out, nearly colliding with a woman entering the shop. One of the officers follows him while the other approaches my table. We got everything, she confirms. This is exactly what the ethics committee needed. The recording spreads like wildfire through city government. By evening, I receive a call from the city manager himself, a stern man named Robert Calloway. I've called an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning. He tells me, this recording, combined with the evidence you've already provided, raises serious concerns about systemic corruption. We'd like you and your husband to attend. That night, Brad's mother makes one last desperate move. A security guard at the planning department catches her at 11 p.m., shredding documents and deleting files from her computer. The guard, already aware of the investigation, calls the police immediately. They found property records, inspection reports, and emails she was trying to destroy. Councilwoman Ortiz tells me the next morning before the meeting. It's the nail in the coffin. The ethics committee hearing is held in a wood-paneled room at City Hall. Jake squeezes my hand as we take our seats. Brad and his mother sit on the opposite side, not looking at each other. The tension between them is palpable. Eleanor Grayson presents the evidence methodically. Our recordings, the pattern of properties, the document destruction attempt, testimonies from other employees who witnessed the misconduct. When the recording of Brad's coffee shop confession plays, his mother's face contorts with rage. She glares at him with such venom that he physically recoils. When it's Brad's turn to speak, something inside him seems to snap. "This is all her fault," he shouts, pointing at his mother. "She promised she could fix everything. She's been manipulating properties for years, and nobody ever stopped her." "Mr. Harmon," the committee chair warns, "please control yourself." "Control myself while she throws me under the bus?" Brad's voice rises hysterically. "Ask her about the Westview development. Ask her about the permits she killed for developers who wouldn't pay her off." His mother stands up. "My son is clearly disturbed," she says coldly. "He lost his house through his own irresponsibility and has been unstable ever since. I tried to help him through proper channels." "Liar!" Brad lunges toward her, and security officers immediately intervene. "You taught me how to do this. You said nobody would catch us." As they escort a still shouting Brad from the room, his mother sits back down, straightening her jacket as if nothing has happened. "I believe we should continue this hearing at another time," the committee chair says, looking shaken. 2 days later, a judge grants our request for restraining orders against both Brad and his mother. The order specifically prohibits them from coming within 500 feet of us or the Blue House on Maple Street. The DA is moving forward with criminal charges against Brad's mother. Patricia tells us over lunch. Abuse of office, evidence tampering, conspiracy. Brad might get a lesser charge if he cooperates. "What about our closing?" Jake asks. "Scheduled for next Tuesday," Patricia confirms. "The title is clear. All inspections are complete, and your rate lock is secure. We should be celebrating, but that night, our security system alerts us to movement at the Blue House. The camera shows a hooded figure pouring something along the foundation. "Is that gasoline?" Jake asks in horror as we watch the live feed. I'm already calling 911 when the figure strikes a match. The small flame illuminates Brad's face for just a moment before he tosses it toward the house. Thankfully, the fire department arrives within minutes. The damage is minimal, just some scorched siding and a burned bush, but the message is clear. Brad's desperation has reached dangerous levels. The police find him 3 blocks away, still reeking of gasoline. The attempted arson charge, combined with his previous vandalism and breaking and entering attempts, ensures he won't be getting out of jail anytime soon. "I want this nightmare to be over," I tell Jake as we lie in bed that night, both too wired to sleep. "I just want our house." He pulls me close. 3 more days, then it's ours, and Brad and his mother will be nothing but a bad memory. I try to believe him, but something tells me this isn't quite over yet. Brad's mother is still out there, on bail pending her trial. And if there's one thing we've learned, it's that cornered people make desperate choices. The news breaks on a Monday morning. I'm sipping my first coffee of the day when my phone buzzes with a notification from the local news app. City Planning Department director fired amid corruption scandal. I nearly spill my coffee as I tap the notification. The article features a photo of the planning department building with a somber-looking Robert Calloway, the city manager, at a podium. The caption reads, "City Manager Calloway announces sweeping changes following ethics investigation." "Jake!" I call out, my voice echoing through our apartment. "They fired the director." Jake emerges from the bathroom, toothbrush still in his mouth. He leans over my shoulder to read the article, his eyes widening as he scans the text. "The entire department is being restructured," I summarize, scrolling through the details. "Eleanor Grayson has been named interim director. They're implementing new oversight protocols, mandatory ethics training, and oh my god, they're reviewing every permit issued in the past 3 years. Jake disappears to rinse his mouth and returns moments later. "What about Brad's mother?" As if on cue, my phone rings. It's Patricia. "I assume you've seen the news," she says when I answer. "There's more. The DA is filing formal charges against Brad's mother today. Abuse of power, tampering with government records, criminal conspiracy, the works." "What about Brad?" Jake asks after I put the call on speaker. "Currently in a treatment facility. Patricia says. After his meltdown at the ethics hearing and the arson attempt, his public defender convinced the judge that he needed psychiatric evaluation. He's been admitted to Pinewood Recovery Center for a 90-day assessment and treatment program. I feel an unexpected wave of relief. As much as Brad terrorized us, his breakdown at the hearing revealed a deeply troubled person, manipulated by his mother for years. What does this mean for our closing? Jake asks, the practical question that's been hanging over us for weeks. It's still on for tomorrow, Patricia confirms. I've spoken with the title company this morning. Everything is clear, all inspections are finalized, and the seller is eager to complete the transaction. After we hang up, Jake pulls me into a tight hug. We did it, he whispers into my hair. After everything they threw at us, we actually did it. I allow myself to truly believe it for the first time. Tomorrow, that little blue house on Maple Street will be ours. The closing goes smoothly, almost anticlimactically after everything we've been through. We sign papers, exchange cashier's checks, and receive the keys with a sense of surreal calm. No last-minute emergencies, no Brad appearing to cause chaos, no calls from the building department. Congratulations, Lisa says, handing us a bottle of champagne after the final signatures. You two deserve this more than any clients I've ever had. We drive straight to the house, our house from the title company. The afternoon sun makes the blue paint glow, and someone has removed the last traces of Brad's vandalism from the front door. As we walk up the path, the door to the house next door opens, and a woman in her 60s steps out. You must be the new owners, she calls, walking over with a plate of cookies covered in plastic wrap. I'm Margaret, been living next door for 22 years. We introduce ourselves, and Margaret's eyes light up with recognition. Oh, you're the ones who finally took down Evelyn Harmon. That woman has been terrorizing this neighborhood for years. Brad's mother? Jake asks, accepting the cookies. Margaret nods vigorously. Absolute nightmare. Used her position to bully everyone on this street. Threatened code violations if people didn't maintain their property exactly how she wanted. Poor Brad never stood a chance with her as a mother. You knew Brad? I ask, curious about our former tormentor. Since he was a teenager, not a bad kid originally, just desperate for his mother's approval. When he bought this house, we were all happy for him. Then when he lost it, she shakes her head sadly. Evelyn convinced him it wasn't his fault, that the system was rigged against him. She poisoned his mind completely. Over the next hour, 3 more neighbors stopped by with welcome gifts and similar stories. Brad's mother had been manipulating property values and threatening neighbors for nearly a decade. Our successful stand against her had made us neighborhood heroes without even realizing it. We're having a block party next weekend, Margaret tells us as she leaves. Consider yourselves the guests of honor. Inside our new home, Jake and I toast with Lisa's champagne, sitting on the floor of our empty living room. To new beginnings, he says, clinking his plastic cup against mine. And to no more Brad drama, I add. The renovation begins the following week. To our surprise, the permits come through in record time, with a handwritten note from Eleanor Grayson. Consider this a small apology from the planning department. Welcome to the neighborhood. The contractors discover that despite Brad's claims, the house is structurally sound. The foundation is solid, the electrical system needs only minor updates, and the plumbing is in excellent condition. We choose paint colors without Brad looming over our shoulders, select fixtures without threatening phone calls, and watch our vision for the house take shape without interference. 6 months after closing, we receive a notification from Patricia that Brad's mother has accepted a plea deal. She'll serve no jail time but is sentenced to 3 years of probation, community service, and is permanently barred from working in any government position. Is that enough? Jake asks when I tell him the news. We're standing in our newly renovated kitchen, the afternoon sun streaming through windows that no longer have Brad's fingerprints pressed against them. I think so, I say after a moment. She's lost her job, her reputation, and probably her relationship with her son. Justice doesn't always mean punishment. The following weekend, we host our housewarming party. The house is filled with friends, family, and neighbors who have welcomed us with open arms. Margaret brings her famous potato salad. Lisa arrives with a bottle of expensive wine, and Patricia stops by briefly to see the transformation. You wouldn't believe what came in the mail yesterday, I tell Jake quietly as our guests mingle in the backyard. I hand him the envelope addressed in unfamiliar handwriting, postmarked from Pinewood Recovery Center. Inside is a single-page letter. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need to apologize. The house was never about the house, it was about pleasing my mother. I'm learning that now. The therapists here are helping me understand how toxic our relationship was. I'm sorry for everything I put you through. You seem like good people who deserve that home more than I ever did. I won't bother you again. Jake reads it twice, his expression softening. Do you believe him? I think I do, I say. People can change when they're finally free from toxic influences. We tuck the letter away in a drawer, a reminder of the strange journey that brought us here. 1 year later, we celebrate our first anniversary in the house with a quiet dinner in our finished backyard. The blue house on Maple Street has become everything we dreamed of, a home filled with warmth, laughter, and peace. Remember when Brad told us this house had bad energy? Jake says, refilling our wine glasses. I laugh, looking around at the garden we've planted, the patio we've built, the home we've created. If there ever was bad energy, we've definitely replaced it. As the sun sets over our little blue house on Maple Street, I can't help but think about how close we came to walking away, how Brad and his mother nearly succeeded in their scheme. How sometimes, standing your ground against bullies leads not just to justice, but to finding your place in the world. And in this moment, with Jake beside me and our home around us, I know without doubt that this is exactly where we belong.